The first thing Vex noticed about the human female was how utterly, pathetically ordinary she looked. Strapped to the neural interface chair in the center of our interrogation chamber, the creature called Maya Santos appeared to be nothing more than another soft-skinned biped. Her brown hair hung in matted strands around her face, and those peculiar round eyes of hers darted nervously between the four of us. No claws, no natural armor, no visible weapons. Just meat. This is what brought down 3 of our assault cruisers? Krill's mandibles clicked in what I could only describe as cosmic disappointment. His purple exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's harsh lights as he gestured dismissively at our prisoner, this fragile bag of water and carbon. I had to admit, the irony wasn't lost on me. Here we were, the mighty Zephyrian Empire, conquerors of 17 star systems, reduced to cowering behind energy shields because of creatures that looked like they'd struggle to open a particularly stubborn jar. Don't let appearances fool you, I warned, adjusting the neural crown that would soon pierce the human's consciousness. Intelligence reports suggest their species possesses an unusual mental architecture. We need to understand how they coordinate their attacks with such efficiency. That was a diplomatic way of saying they'd turned our last 3 invasion fleets into glowing space debris, with tactics that defied every military protocol we'd studied for the past millennium. The human's lips moved, producing those strange vocal vibrations they called speech. Look, I keep telling you guys, I'm just a librarian. I don't know anything about military stuff. I was literally cataloging romance novels when your ship grabbed me. Nix. Our communications specialist tilted his scaled head. She claims to be a keeper of written knowledge. Perhaps their tactical information is stored in these romance novels. Don't be ridiculous, Krill snorted, a sound like grinding metal. No species would hide military secrets in mating documentation. Oh, how wrong we were about that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The human, Maya, continued babbling as I made final adjustments to the neural interface. Seriously? You want to know about human military tactics? Call the Pentagon. I can tell you all about late fees and book recommendations, but that's about it. Silence, I commanded, though I found her terror oddly unsettling. Most species begged for mercy at this point. The humans we'd previously encountered had either fought until death or cowered in absolute terror. This one seemed more annoyed than afraid. The neural crown is calibrated, I announced to my team, beginning telepathic interface in 3, 2, 1. The moment I opened my mind to hers, I knew we'd made a terrible mistake. The first sensation was noise, not sound, noise, a cacophony of thoughts, memories, and emotions that hit my consciousness like a plasma cannon to the skull. I staggered backward, my 3 hearts hammering against my ribcage. What did you see? Krill demanded, but I couldn't answer. I was too busy trying to process what I'd just experienced. Human minds, it turned out, were nothing like the orderly, compartmentalized consciousness structures we'd encountered in other species. Where a typical alien mind resembled a well-organized library with clearly labeled sections, Maya's mind was like someone had detonated a bomb in a data center, scattered the pieces across 17 dimensions, and then let caffeinated squirrels reorganize everything. And that was just the surface layer. Try again, Nick suggested. Perhaps the initial contact was too abrupt. I steadied myself and initiated a deeper connection, determined to push past the chaos and find the tactical information we needed. What I found instead was far more disturbing. The human was thinking about everything simultaneously. Her immediate surface thoughts bounced between concern about her capture, embarrassment about not changing her socks that morning, a half-remembered song from something called a commercial, worry about her cat, Mr. Whiskers' complex theory about where her co-worker, Derek, always smelled like tuna, and approximately 47 other completely unrelated topics, all at the same time. The mind link is established, I reported, my voice strained. But her thought patterns are chaotic. Give me a moment to sort through. That's when I hit the first memory barrier. It wasn't intentional. The human wasn't trying to hide anything from me, but as I probed deeper into her consciousness, I encountered something that made my blood freeze in my veins. Maya Santos, mild-mannered librarian, was remembering her morning jog. Specifically, the moment when she'd spotted a spider in her shower and had calmly captured it with a glass and piece of paper. "I don't like killing things," her memory whispered to me. "Everything has a right to exist." The sentiment was touching. The problem was what came next. As I followed that memory thread, I accessed her deeper recollections, and that's when I learned that Maya Santos had once spent 3 hours performing surgery on a wounded bird, with nothing but a sewing kit and YouTube tutorials. She'd successfully saved its life, then spent 2 weeks nursing it back to health before releasing it. Impressive, perhaps, but hardly terrifying, until I accessed the memory of what happened to the neighbor's cat that had killed her bird. The human hadn't hurt the cat. Oh no, that would have been simple, understandable. Instead, she'd spent 6 months systematically turning the entire neighborhood against the cat's owner. Anonymous tips to animal control about neglect. Carefully orchestrated social media campaigns. Strategic placements of evidence that painted the owner as irresponsible. By the time she was finished, the owner had lost his job, his girlfriend, and his social standing. The cat had been rehomed to a family that would take better care of it. And Maya Santos had smiled sweetly and brought the traumatized owner a casserole, expressing her sympathy for his bad luck. The memory was tinged with satisfaction. Not malicious glee, but a quiet, patient satisfaction at a job well done. "Status report," Krill demanded. I couldn't answer. I was too busy reeling from the implications of what I'd just seen. This wasn't a hardened warrior or a military strategist. This was someone who worked in customer service and liked to read books about people falling in love, and she was absolutely, completely, utterly terrifying. "Vex." Krill's voice cracked like a whip. "What are you seeing?" I struggled to find the words. "She's not a warrior. She's something worse." The neural interface was pulling me deeper into her mind, past the conscious thoughts, and into the vast repository of human experience. And what I found there challenged everything we thought we knew about this species. Humans, I learned, were persistence predators, but not just physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. They would identify a problem, analyze it from every conceivable angle, and then systematically, relentlessly, patiently work to solve it. They called it being helpful. Maya's mind was full of examples. The time she'd spent 2 years slowly convincing her alcoholic uncle to enter rehab by strategically arranging for him to meet people who'd successfully overcome addiction. The way she'd handled her abusive high school principal by methodically documenting every instance of inappropriate behavior until she had enough evidence to destroy his career. The pattern was always the same. Identify the problem, analyze, plan, execute, wait. And humans were very, very good at waiting. "She's thinking about us," I reported, my voice barely above a whisper, "about this ship, about our defenses. She's been cataloging everything since we brought her aboard." "Impossible," Nick scoffed. "She's a primitive. She doesn't understand our technology." But that was the thing about humans. They didn't need to understand the technology to understand the people using it, and they were frighteningly good at reading people. Maya had noticed that Krill's mandibles clicked when he was nervous. She'd observed that Nix's scales changed color slightly when he was lying. She'd seen that I favored my left arm, suggesting an old injury that might affect my reaction time. In the span of 2 hours, this primitive had compiled a psychological profile of her captors that would have impressed our military intelligence corps. "She's planning something," I warned. "I can feel it in her mind. She's not trying to escape. She's trying to understand her. Understanding doesn't help her," Krill dismissed. "She's one small human against an entire ship of Zephyrian warriors." That's when Maya spoke up, her voice carrying an odd note of what humans called customer service cheerfulness. "Excuse me," she said politely. "I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm getting a bit of a headache from your telepathy thing. Could you maybe dial it back just a tiny bit? I promise I will cooperate." Her tone was so reasonable, so accommodating, that Krill actually started to reach for the neural interface controls before catching himself. "Do not be fooled by her apparent compliance," I warned. She's treating this like a customer service interaction. What does that mean? Nix asked. Through the neural link, I could feel Maya's thought process. She was dealing with us the same way she'd deal with an upset library patron. Assess the situation. Identify what the customer wants. Figure out how to give it to them while achieving your own goals. The terrifying part, she was winning. She's not fighting us, I explained, my voice rising in panic. She's managing us. She's identified what we want, information about human military tactics, and she's figuring out how to give us that information in a way that serves her purposes. Ridiculous, Krill snarled. She's our prisoner. She has no power here. But even as he spoke, I could feel Maya's satisfaction rippling through the neural link. She'd successfully identified the power dynamic on our ship. Krill was the muscle, Nix was the technical specialist, and I was the one making decisions, and she was already working on how to manipulate each of us. Oh, I almost forgot, Maya said, her voice bright with helpfulness. When you are poking around in my head, you might want to be careful about accessing my anxiety responses. I have a really active imagination, and sometimes my brain comes up with some pretty intense scenarios. I'd hate for you to accidentally experience one of my panic attacks. I froze. In my focus on her tactical thinking, I'd completely overlooked her emotional responses and human emotions. I was beginning to realize were weapons all their own. What kind of scenarios? I asked, dreading the answer. Maya's smile was nothing but sweetness and light. Oh, you know, the usual stuff. What would happen if someone accidentally triggered the self-destruct sequence on an alien spaceship? How would the crew react? Would they panic? Would they make mistakes? Would they maybe forget to totally restrain their prisoner in all the chaos? The neural link carried not just her words, but the full weight of her imagination. And Maya Santos had a very, very active imagination. In the space of 30 seconds, I experienced her mental simulation of 17 different ways our ship could be destroyed, 43 potential failure points in our security systems, and a detailed analysis of how human physiology might react to the specific atmospheric composition of our ship. She's not just thinking about these things, I gasped. She's been thinking about them since we brought her aboard. She's been running scenarios, analyzing possibilities, planning contingencies. For what? Krill demanded. Maya's eyes met mine, and for the first time since we'd captured her, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Not fear, not anger, just patience. For when the rescue team arrives, she said simply. The neural link exploded with images. Not memories this time, but projections. Maya's mind was showing me exactly what would happen when her species came looking for her, and the tactical brilliance was breathtaking. Humans didn't just send rescue teams, they sent psychological warfare specialists disguised as rescue teams. She's been broadcasting, I realized with mounting horror. This whole time, she's been using her own neural activity to send signals. The telepathic interface works both ways. That's impossible, Nix protested. Humans don't have telepathic abilities. No, I agreed, my voice hollow with realization. But they have something much worse. They have imagination. And every time I access her thoughts, I'm inadvertently transmitting those thoughts to any human telepathic receiver within range. Maya's smile widened. Did I mention I used to volunteer at the crisis hotline? I got really good at keeping people calm while the professionals handled the emergency. The implication hit me like a meteor. This entire interrogation had been a performance. Maya Santos, librarian and volunteer crisis counselor, had been keeping us calm and distracted while her people prepared for war. How long? I whispered. Oh, about 47 minutes now, Maya replied cheerfully. I figured it would take them about an hour to get here once they triangulated my position. So, we have got maybe 13 minutes before things get really interesting. Through the neural link, I could feel her genuine excitement, not fear, not desperation. Excitement. Humans, I realized, actually enjoyed this. Krill, I said, my voice barely controlled. We need to abandon ship. Now. Don't be ridiculous, he scoffed. One human female cannot. That's when the lights went out. In the darkness, Maya's voice carried clearly through the chamber. still tinged with that helpful customer service tone. "Oh, and just so you know, that wasn't my rescue team. That was me. I have been studying your ship's power systems through the neural interface." Fascinating design, by the way. Very efficient. But you have a single point of failure in your primary conduit that can be overloaded by generating the right kind of feedback through your own telepathic equipment. The emergency lighting flickered on, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Maya was still secured in her restraints, still smiling that helpful smile. "The really interesting part," she continued conversationally, "is that your backup power systems are designed to prioritize life support over containment fields. So in about 30 seconds, these restraints are going to power down automatically." I lunged for the manual override, but Maya's voice stopped me cold. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. See, I have been paying attention to your ship's structural integrity while you have been poking around in my head. And I have noticed that you have got some stress fractures in your hull plating, probably from all those battles with my people. Nothing dangerous under normal circumstances, but if you manually override the power distribution," she didn't need to finish. The implications were clear. Any attempt to manually control the ship's systems could trigger a cascade failure that would tear us apart. "She's bluffing," Krill said, but his mandibles were clicking rapidly. "No," I said, staring at the human female who had just turned our own ship into a trap. "She's not." Maya's restraints powered down with a soft hiss. She stretched, working out the kinks in her shoulders, and stood up from the chair. "So," she said, brushing dust off her clothes, "I'm guessing you guys want to surrender before my friends arrive, because I'd hate for this to get messy. I mean, I'm sure we can work something out that's mutually beneficial." She was still using her customer service voice, still being helpful, and that's when I finally understood the true horror of what we were facing. Humans weren't just warriors, they were customer service representatives armed with the patience of predators and the imagination of chaos itself. Maya walked calmly to the chamber's control panel, her movements confident and assured. "Now I'm going to need you to power down your weapons systems and open a communication channel to my people. And don't worry about the language barrier. I have been learning your communication protocols through the neural interface." She turned to face us, that helpful smile never wavering. "Trust me," she said, "I'm here to help." The worst part, I actually believed her, and that's when the real nightmare began. The communication channel crackled to life just as Maya finished adjusting the ship's internal sensors. Her fingers moved across our control interfaces with disturbing familiarity, as if she'd been operating Zephyrian technology her entire life. "Maya Santos to Earth Command," she said into the transmitter, her voice carrying that same helpful tone that had become the soundtrack to our doom. "Package secured, ready for pickup." The response came immediately, and it sent ice through my circulatory system. "Copy that, Maya. This is Colonel Janet Torres. We have got visual on your position. Nice work on the power grid disruption. How many hostile—" Maya glanced at us with something that might have been sympathy. 4 primary contacts. They seem manageable. Manageable. The word hit me like a physical blow. We were the Zephyrian Empire's elite interrogation team, and this human librarian had just described us as manageable. "Understood. Strike Team Alpha is inbound. ETA 6 minutes. "Actually, Colonel," Maya said, holding up a hand, "I think we might be able to resolve this diplomatically. These folks seem pretty reasonable once you get past all the tentacles and clicking sounds." I stared at her in disbelief. Was she actually trying to protect us? "Maya," the Colonel's voice carried a warning tone, "remember your training. Don't let them manipulate you." Maya's laugh was genuinely amused. "Oh, trust me. I'm the one doing the manipulating here. But I think there's an opportunity for mutual benefit. Give me 10 minutes before you start shooting, okay?" There was a pause. Then, 10 minutes. "Don't make me regret this." The channel closed, and Maya turned to face us with that customer service smile firmly in place. "Okay, gentlemen, here's the situation. In about 6 minutes, a team of very skilled, very motivated human soldiers is going to board this ship. They are going to be armed with weapons specifically designed to kill your species. And they are going to be in a really bad mood because you kidnapped me." She leaned against the control panel, completely relaxed. "Now, I could let that happen, but I'm thinking there might be a better solution for everyone involved." What do you want? I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. Information, Maya said simply. Specifically, I want to know why your people keep trying to invade Earth. Because from my perspective, it seems like a really bad business decision. Krill's mandibles clicked aggressively. You dare to question the strategic wisdom of the Zephyrian Empire? Oh, absolutely, Maya replied cheerfully. See, I have been inside your head for the past hour, Vex. And what I found there is interesting. She turned to face me directly, and I saw something in her eyes that made me want to retreat into my shell. It wasn't anger or hatred, it was understanding. And somehow, that was infinitely more terrifying. You are not conquerors, she said quietly. You are refugees. The words hit the chamber like a plasma burst. Nyx's scales flashed panic colors, and Krill's entire exoskeleton began to vibrate with barely controlled rage. How dare you? Krill began. But Maya held up a hand. Your homeworld is dying, she continued, her voice gentle but implacable. Some kind of stellar event. Your star is becoming unstable. You have maybe 50 years before your entire system becomes uninhabitable. The accuracy of her assessment was staggering. Through the neural interface, she'd somehow pieced together classified information that was known only to our highest military commanders. So you are not trying to conquer us because you want to, Maya continued. You are trying to conquer us because you need to. You need a new home. Earth looks like the best option in the neighborhood. I wanted to deny it, but the neural link was still active. She could feel my confirmation of her words. The problem is, Maya said, settling into what I was beginning to recognize as her problem-solving mode. Your approach is terrible. You are trying to take our planet by force, which means you are going to face resistance every step of the way. Even if you win, you will be dealing with insurgency and sabotage for generations. What would you have us do? I asked, despite myself. Ask politely. Maya's smile was radiant. Actually, yes. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Then, Krill exploded into laughter, a sound like grinding metal and breaking glass. You cannot be serious, he wheezed. You expect us to simply ask for your planet. Not the whole planet, Maya corrected. Just parts of it. Earth has lots of space, lots of places where people aren't living. And here's the thing about humans that you obviously don't understand. We are really good at making deals. She began pacing, her movements quick and animated. I could feel her excitement through the neural link as she warmed to her topic. See, you have been approaching this like a zero-sum game. Either you get Earth, or we keep it. But what if it's not zero-sum? What if we can both get what we want? Impossible, Nyx said. We need planetary resources, habitable territory, agricultural land. Right, Maya agreed, and we need technology. Specifically, your technology, your medicine, your manufacturing capabilities, your interstellar travel systems. I felt a chill of understanding beginning to form. You are suggesting a trade. I'm suggesting a partnership, Maya corrected. Look, your people are facing extinction. That's a powerful motivator. But so is survival, and humans are really, really good at survival. We have been doing it on a planet that's been trying to kill us for millions of years. She stopped pacing and fixed me with that penetrating stare. What you need isn't a conquered planet. What you need is allies. People who understand the value of cooperation in the face of existential threats. And what makes you think your species would agree to such an arrangement? Krill demanded. Maya's grin was positively predatory. Because I know humans. And I know that when you present us with a problem that needs solving, we don't just solve it. We solve it better than anyone thought possible. The neural link was flooding with images from her mind. Not memories this time, but projections. Possibilities. I saw human and Zephyrian engineers working together to terraform dead worlds. I saw hybrid colonies spreading across the galaxy. I saw technologies that neither species could have developed alone. You are talking about integration, I said slowly. Not conquest, not coexistence. Integration. Exactly, Maya said. Your people bring the technology and the knowledge. We bring the adaptability and the problem-solving skills. Together, we don't just survive the death of your star, we thrive. And if your people refuse— Maya's expression didn't change, but I felt something shift in the neural link. Something cold and calculating that reminded me exactly how dangerous this seemingly harmless human could be. Then you go back to your original plan, she said simply. You try to conquer us, and we defend ourselves. And in 50 years, when your star finally dies, both our species will be extinct. The logic was inescapable and terrifying. But Maya continued, her voice brightening. I don't think it will come to that, because I'm going to help you make the pitch. What pitch? Nix asked. The one you are going to make to the United Nations, Maya replied. The one where you explain your situation and ask for sanctuary. The one where you offer to share your technology in exchange for a new home. I stared at her. You would do that? Help us convince your people to accept us. Of course, Maya said. It's the right thing to do, and besides, her smile turned mischievous. I'm really curious to see what happens when human imagination meets Ephirian engineering. That's when the ship shuddered. Maya glanced at the chronometer on the wall and nodded approvingly. Right on time, she said. That would be Strike Team Alpha. They are probably cutting through your hull right about now. The sound of laser cutters confirmed her assessment. Somewhere in the ship's lower levels, human soldiers were making their presence known. So, Maya said, turning back to us, what's it going to be? Do you want to spend the next few hours in a running firefight with some very annoyed human special forces? Or do you want to try something that might actually solve everyone's problems? I looked at my team. Krill's mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sure sign of extreme agitation. Nix's scales had shifted to a pattern I'd never seen before, probably indicating that his emotional state had moved beyond their normal range, and I could feel my own heart's hammering against my chest plates. You are asking us to trust you, I said fine. I'm asking you to trust the process, Maya corrected. I'm asking you to believe that sometimes the best solution is the one where everyone wins. The sound of the laser cutters was getting closer. Soon, we would be dealing with armed human soldiers who would not be inclined toward Maya's diplomatic approach. What do you need from us? I asked. Maya's smile was brilliant. First, I need you to power down all your weapon systems. Completely. No exception. Second, I need you to open all your internal blast doors. Third, I need you to prepare a complete technical database of your capabilities. And fourth, she paused, and I felt a spike of amusement through the neural link. Fourth, I need you to practice saying please and thank you in English, because you are about to have the most important job interview of your species' existence. The cutting sound stopped. In the distance, I could hear the distinctive sound of human voices coordinating their approach. Decide quickly, Maya said, because in about 30 seconds, this becomes a very different conversation. I looked at Krill and Nix. Both were clearly terrified, but I could see something else in their postures. Hope. Desperate, fragile hope. Do it, I said to Nix. Power down all weapons, open the blast doors. Vex. Are you insane? Krill demanded. Probably, I admitted. But I'd rather be insane and alive than logical and extinct. Maya clapped her hands together. Excellent choice. Now let's get you boys ready to make some new friends. She moved to the communication panel and opened a channel. Colonel Torres, this is Maya. Stand down. We are coming out to talk. Maya, what's your status? Are you injured? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I think we have got a situation here that's going to require some creative problem solving. Can you patch me through to General Harrison? There was a pause. Maya, you are asking me to conference call a general while we are conducting a hostage rescue operation. Trust me, Colonel, this is bigger than a hostage rescue. This is a first contact situation with potentially massive implications for both species. Another pause. Then, stand by. Maya turned back to us while we waited. Okay, here's what's going to happen. We are going to walk out of this chamber together. My people are going to be very jumpy, so no sudden movements. You are going to explain your situation calmly and clearly, and then we are all going to sit down and figure out how to save both our species. She paused, studying our faces. Any questions? Why are you helping us? I asked. Maya's expression grew thoughtful. Because I spent an hour inside your head, Vex. I saw what you are really afraid of. It's not humans. It's not even death. It's the idea that your entire civilization might disappear without leaving any trace that it ever existed. She reached out and, to my complete shock, gently touched my arm. That's not going to happen. Not if I can help it. The communication channel crackled to life. Santos, this is General Harrison. Torres tells me you have a situation that requires executive attention. Yes, sir. General, I need you to clear your schedule for the next few hours. We are about to negotiate the most important treaty in human history. Explain. Maya looked at us and smiled. We are about to welcome some new neighbors to the galaxy. And, sir, they are going to need our help. As we prepared to leave the chamber, I realized that everything had changed, not just for us, but for both our species. Maya Santos, librarian and crisis counselor, had just rewritten the rules of interspecies contact. And the most terrifying part, I was beginning to think she might actually pull it off. Ready? Maya asked. I looked at my team, took a deep breath, and nodded. Ready. Together, we walked toward a future that none of us had imagined possible. The blast doors hissed open, and we stepped into the corridor to face a sight that would have been impossible just hours earlier. Human soldiers in full fort armor stood alongside Zephyrian security forces, their weapons lowered but ready. The tension was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. Easy, everyone, Maya called out, her voice carrying that same customer service authority that had gotten us into this mess. We are all friends here, or at least we are about to be. Colonel Torres approached, her weapon trained on Krill, but her eyes fixed on Maya. Santos, report. Are you compromised? Only by excessive optimism, Maya replied with a grin. Colonel, meet Vex, Krill, and Nix. They are about to become our new best friends. The absurdity of the situation hit me like a meteor. Here we were, in the middle of what should have been a firefight, and Maya was making introductions like we were at a dinner party. General Harrison is standing by, Torres said, not lowering her weapon. He wants a full briefing before we proceed. Of course he does, Maya said. But first, I need everyone to understand something. These people aren't our enemies. They are desperate refugees facing extinction, and we are about to prove that humans are capable of more than just warfare. She turned to address both the human and Zephyrian forces. I know this is weird. I know none of you signed up for intergalactic diplomacy, but sometimes the universe throws you a curveball, and you have to decide whether to duck or swing for the fences. Maya, I said quietly, perhaps we should trust the process, she interrupted with a smile. Remember what I told you about humans and problem solving? The communication channel crackled to life. This is General Harrison. Santos, I need you to explain to me why I shouldn't authorize immediate military action against a hostile alien vessel. Maya straightened, and I felt her shift into what I now recognized as her professional mode. Sir, because the hostile alien vessel contains 4 scared individuals whose entire civilization is facing extinction. Because they didn't come here to conquer us out of malice, but out of desperation, and because we have an opportunity to gain allies, advanced technology, and a chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our capacity for violence, but our capacity for compassion. The silence stretched for several seconds. Then, you are asking me to trust the word of enemy combatants. I'm asking you to trust me, sir. I have been inside their heads. Literally. I know their intentions, their fears, their hopes, and I know that we can do better than meet violence with violence. The President is listening in, General Harrison said. She wants to know what you are proposing. Maya took a deep breath. Full disclosure, sir. Complete transparency. We invite their leadership to Earth for formal negotiation. We offer them sanctuary in exchange for technological cooperation. We turn potential enemies into partners. And if they betray that trust, Maya's expression hardened slightly. Then we remind them why conquering Earth was a bad idea in the first place. Sir, I don't think it will come to that, because I think they are tired of fighting just as much as we are. Through the neural link, I felt Maya's absolute confidence in her assessment. She wasn't just hoping for the best. She was genuinely certain that cooperation was not only possible, but inevitable. Vex, she said, turning to me. Your people have been at war for how long? 17 years, I replied. Since we first confirmed the stellar instability. 17 years of constant conflict, Maya said to the communication channel. 17 years of watching their resources dwindle, while they fought war after war, trying to secure a new home. Sir, they are not monsters, they are survivors, and they are exhausted. I felt something crack inside my chest. The human had seen something in our minds that we'd barely admitted to ourselves. We were tired. So incredibly tired. General Harrison, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She speaks the truth. We are weary of war. If there is another way. You are speaking for your entire species, the general asked. I'm speaking for those who still remember what we were before desperation changed us. I replied. We were explorers, scientists, artists. War has made us something else, but it hasn't destroyed what we once were. Maya nodded approvingly. See, they are not asking for conquest. They are asking for a chance to be themselves again. The communication channel was quiet for a long moment. Then, this is President Santos, you are asking me to authorize first contact protocols based on a hostage situation and your personal assessment of alien psychology. Yes, ma'am. I am, and you believe this is the right course of action. Maya's smile was radiant. Madam President, I believe this is the only course of action that doesn't end with two species destroying each other. We can choose fear, or we can choose hope, and humans have always been at their best when they choose hope. Another pause. Then, General Harrison, initiate first contact protocols. Santos, you are now acting as our preliminary diplomatic liaison. Don't make me regret this. You won't, ma'am. I promise. The channel closed, and Maya turned to face all of us. Okay, everyone. We are about to make history, but first, we need to get everyone fed, rested, and properly introduced, because you can't build trust on an empty stomach. 2 hours later, I found myself in the most surreal situation of my life. We were sitting in the ship's dining facility, sharing a meal with human soldiers who had been prepared to kill us just hours earlier. Maya had somehow convinced the ship's food processors to create dishes that were acceptable to both species, and she was acting as translator, cultural interpreter, and general hostess. So, Colonel Torres said, addressing Krill directly, Maya tells me you are an engineer. What kind of propulsion systems are you using? Krill's mandibles clicked nervously, but he began to explain our quantum fold drives. Within minutes, he was deep in technical discussion with the human military engineers, all of them sketching diagrams on napkins and gesturing excitedly. You see, Maya said quietly, settling beside me, give people a chance to connect over shared interests, and species barriers start to disappear. You make it sound simple, I said. It is simple, Maya replied. Not easy, but simple. People want to be understood. They want to contribute. They want to belong. Doesn't matter if they are human or Zephyrian or whatever else is out there in the universe. I watched Nix showing a human communications specialist how our translation matrices worked. Both of them laughing at some shared joke. You are changing everything, I said. We are changing everything, Maya corrected. This isn't a human solution or a Zephyrian solution. It's a solution that works because we are working together. And you truly believe it will work, long term? Maya was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. I believe it will work, because the alternative is unthinkable. Your people die, and humanity loses the chance to learn from one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. We both lose something irreplaceable. She turned to face me directly, but more than that, I believe it will work, because I have seen what's possible when people choose cooperation over competition, when they choose understanding over fear. And if you are wrong, Maya's smile was sad but determined. Then at least we will have tried. At least we will have given both our species the chance to be better than our worst instincts. The next few days passed in a blur of communications, negotiations, and gradual trust building. Maya had somehow appointed herself as chief coordinator, managing everything from dietary requirements to cultural sensitivity training. She treated the entire process like the world's most important customer service project. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. The formal negotiations began a week later, conducted via quantum-encrypted channels between Earth and the Zephyrian High Council. Maya had convinced the human leadership to allow me to serve as cultural liaison, translating not just language, but intent and meaning. The thing about humans, I explained to the High Council during one particularly tense session, is that they respond to authenticity. They can sense deception, but they also respond incredibly well to genuine need. You are asking us to show weakness, Council Leader Thex replied. I'm asking you to show truth, I corrected. Maya has taught me that strength and vulnerability are not opposites. They can coexist. The breakthrough came when Maya suggested something that no one had considered, a joint colonization project. Not humans giving space to Zephyrians, or Zephyrians adapting to human worlds, but both species working together to terraform previously uninhabitable planets. Think about it, she said during a joint planning session. Humans are experts at adapting to hostile environments. Zephyrians have the technology to modify those environments. Together, we could create worlds that neither species could develop alone. The concept was revolutionary. Instead of competing for existing resources, we would create new ones. Instead of one species accommodating the other, we would build something entirely new together. 6 months later, as I watched human and Zephyrian children playing together in the first integrated colony, I finally understood what Maya had tried to tell us that day. The children were speaking a hybrid language that incorporated elements from both our tongues. They were playing games that combined human creativity with Zephyrian logic. They were, quite literally, the future neither species had imagined possible. Not bad for a librarian and a bunch of alien interrogators, Maya said, joining me at the observation deck. You say that as if it was accidental, I replied. Maybe it was, Maya said with a grin. But maybe the best solutions usually are. Maybe the universe has a sense of humor, and it likes to solve problems by throwing unlikely people together and seeing what happens. I watched a human child teach a young Zephyrian how to build a sandcastle, while a Zephyrian adolescent showed a group of human children how to create holographic art. What happens next? I asked. Next we keep building, Maya said. We keep learning. We keep proving that cooperation is stronger than competition, that understanding is more powerful than fear. She paused, her expression growing thoughtful. And maybe, just maybe, we become the kind of species that other civilizations want to meet. Instead of being afraid of first contact, maybe we become the reason other species look forward to it. Humans weren't just dangerous because they were unpredictable. They were dangerous because they were hope made manifest. And sometimes, hope was the most terrifying force in the universe. But also, as it turned out, the most powerful. As I stood there watching the future unfold, I realized that Maya Santos had done something that no military strategist or diplomatic corps had ever managed. She had turned enemies into family. And that, I thought, was the most human thing of all.